TG Geeks, Episode 55, January 11th, 2016. Hopefully, the El Nino temper tantrum is over for a while. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre, you name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from soggy TG Squared Studios in Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, coming to you from, oh, thank God I'm no longer pre-El Nino, Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah. And we got a little news for you today, so let's get right to the news.
A story came out just the other day that really caught my attention, and that is how NBC is going to be going with a comedy. Yes. A comedy from a DC Comics.
What?
DC Comics comedy, so to speak. It's called Powerless. They're kind of referring to it as like The Office, but set in the DC superhero universe. Yeah, basically, the show will take place firmly in the DC universe, but don't expect to see any of the heroes. You're not going to see Superman. You're not going to see Batman. You're not going to see any of the CW characters battling it out, whatever. Instead, what you're going to see is, like I said, it's a cross between The Office and superhero universe, which centers around an insurance company that specializes in insuring and fixing the wreckage in the aftermath of all of those wonderful, super destructive fights we get to see, like we saw in Man of Steel and like we're seeing in Supergirl. Does this sound familiar?
Didn't we talk about this?
We did do a story about this not too long ago, because ABC is turning to another Marvel property called Damage Control.
Oh, yeah. It was,
and it's about a cleanup crew.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the same thing.
It's essentially the same thing.
Who's ripping off who?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not entirely sure who came up with it first. I
think it's pretty cool, though. I think it's great.
Well, it's an interesting idea. It's a nice little take.
Yeah.
My only concern is that NBC has not exactly been very, very successful when it comes to DC properties. And granted, I'm only taking that from one TV show, and that's Constantine.
Yeah, well.
So, I mean, that didn't quite go very well. And I think they did another superhero family type series that you and I tried to watch a couple of episodes, and we just turned our noses up at it.
Was that?
Or was that ABC? I can't recall now. Just some superhero family that we both... The series was just abysmally bad. If it's NBC, then I'm thinking, NBC, stay away.
Yeah.
Don't do it. I mean, it could be a bad idea. To me, it just...
You know, the only thing that I would think that they would have to do in that situation is they would have to work with the showrunners of the other DC properties, so that they kind of at least have some cohesive element. You know,
yeah,
but you don't want to be fixing something that has not happened.
The fact that this is NBC is the thing that is really peculiar, though.
Yeah.
I really don't know if NBC has any connection to DC. Well, obviously they did. I mean, they had Constantine, but that series was really standalone.
Yeah.
I mean, even though it made references to other properties, I mean, like in the pilot we saw Dr. Fate's helmet, but we see no connection, or didn't see any connection at all to any of the other TV or even movie properties at that time. So how they're going to work this seems a little kind of weird, at least with Damage Control.
Yeah,
the great thing about that is you can actually make a direct reference to other Marvel properties. You can talk about the things that happen in Captain America, or the things that happen on Thor,
or happen in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, if it time it right, you can make good references to the events in Civil War. So there's a great a better essence of synergy.
Synergy, yes, and we talked about synergy a lot.
So I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of a bold idea.
Yeah.
And The Office was a very popular show, even though neither of us really watched it. It was popular with audiences.
Yeah.
So I feel kind of a little. I don't know. I'm a little uncertain about that.
Who knows?
Now, sticking with the DC TV theme.
Yeah.
Apparently, this coming spring or latter half of this season of Gotham, we're going to find out who actually killed Bruce Wayne's parents.
Has that ever been revealed in the comic books?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, so that could be interesting. Maybe it's a red herring.
It could be. It has been covered in some of the movies. We know that in the Tim Burton film.
Right.
It was a young Joker, pre-Joker,
right,
who killed Tom and Martha Wayne. I believe in the reboots I can't think of his name all of a sudden. It just went out of my head.
Gallivant?
No, not who?
Gallivant?
Gallivant. No.
Oh, not that. That's wrong.
No, I'm just trying to think about the last series of reboots. What the Christopher Nolan movies?
Oh,
no, not
okay.
Christopher. I can't remember if they're Christopher
Anyway.
Nolan or not. Shame on me. I believe that there was some allusion to some reference. I've only seen that movie once. So I don't know if it's ever really discussed. I think it changes. It gets rebooted time and time again.
Yeah. Well, I think it sounds like that they're going to tie it to.
But is it too soon?
I don't know. I think they'd probably need to wrap that thread up. You know, I mean, they've kind of wrapped it up. I think there's still going to be loose ends that are going to. Obviously, the sister and the niece have absconded.
Yeah.
So there's more story there. So I think that they're probably going to have to wind that thread up at some point.
I just wonder if this isn't a little bit too much too soon.
Yeah,
I know that
there's for him to find out who killed his parents. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
because
possible.
A lot of people are already saying, "Oh, we want to see Batman. We want to see Batman." I say, "Hey, wait a minute. Bruce is just a kid."
Yeah.
Let's be real here.
He didn't really turn into Batman until he was
an adult.
Yeah.
And this series is really about James Gordon.
Yeah.
And the villains that come into place. I mean, this is the one big fear that I had with the series initially. And while I've enjoyed it even up till now, I'm still afraid that they're going to start advancing storylines just a little bit too soon to the point where it becomes ridiculous.
Yeah, so he's Batman at 15.
Exactly. Or if you do finally get him to where he's Batman as an adult, you're going to have Penguin, who's ready for the retirement home.
Yeah, the criminal's retirement home.
I mean, that's
Arkham Asylum retirement home.
Well, that's what Arkham's going to end up becoming if they keep going down this road.
Yeah.
So I'm just a little afraid that they're starting to throw things a little bit too quick because fans are maybe getting a little bit too restless.
Yeah, it's possible.
About
I
plot
don't know,
lines.
Obviously they have some plan. So we'll see.
I mean, so far what they've done has been good, but I just think they need to, not rush things too much, just for the sake of satisfying certain desires by fans and wanting to get to the Batman part too soon. And I think the showrunners have already said we're not going to see Batman at all. If we do see Batman at all, it won't be till the very, very end of the very season or the end of the series, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, and that could be one of the things that they have in mind is when the show has run its course, is it's going to then be a flash forward.
And that's okay. I don't mind it becoming a flash forward. You just have to adequately pace your show.
Yeah.
You don't want to all of a sudden advance everything really quickly and then realize, oh, hey, guess what? Fox says that our show's a hit. Now we need to pad it for 3 years.
Right.
And that's going to sink it.
They probably had a 3-year story arc because most shows run 3 years and then it becomes too expensive to continue the shows, after that 3-year point. And then they maybe had a 3-year arc and they're seeing it be successful, and now they're starting to pad or something.
I mean, that was one of the big problems that happened with the Battlestar Galactica reboot. Yeah. I mean, that show was enormously popular, and then the showrunners had an ending point, But now Sci-Fi comes in and says, "Oh, we need to add more seasons because
add another season
to the
God.
show." It's like, oh crap! Well, now we have to really pad the show,
and that's when they lost me.
And that's when they lost me too.
I never watched the end of it.
No, never saw the end of it.
So,
and I just don't want that to happen to Gotham because it's been really strong so far.
It's been very strong. I've enjoyed the show a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, moving on to something that's kind of artsy and techie at the same time. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 will be employing new filming technology when they start to go into production. They're going to be using something called the Red Weapon 8K camera.
Wow.
Now, we don't even have 8K in broadcast television. I mean, we're barely beginning to scratch the surface of 4K.
If that, yeah.
And already Marvel is looking at doing something in 8K. Now, I've got a lot of ideas about this.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's shot in 8K and then you render it down, if the quality remains there, you get a better quality shot. Whereas if you just think of regular film, if you take a 35 millimeter negative, you can only blow it up so far, and you can only do certain things with the 35 millimeter negative. Where you get a larger negative, say an 8x10 negative, you could blow that thing up the size of a house and still retain the quality.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if they shoot it in 8K, if they render it down to be shown in regular theaters digitally, if that quality still remains, if that's the point of this, or having it ready for 8K production or TVs or video players or whatever.
That's kind of the question that I had. Now, apparently there are just a handful of theaters that are capable of actually broadcasting, or not broadcasting, but showing films in 8K. Now, the new camera, what it will do is it'll capture 8K 75 frames per second, or 6K at 100 frames per second.
Wow.
Or 4K, which will be the new television standard, at 150K. No, let me say that again. 4K at 150 frames per second. And 4K TVs have only recently started to take over. Streaming television and a lot of television networks, I mean, those are still in 1080p. Right. So we've got a long ways to go.
So I'm wondering if the cinemas can do 4K digitally.
That's sort of the question that we've got here. How many theaters are actually capable of projecting in 8K? Apparently, I would imagine there's going to be some kind of cost in overhauling a theater so that it can show an 8K projection. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what that's going to look like. And the other concern is, are we seeing Marvel maybe take the same or run the risk of taking the same direction that George Lucas did when he started doing his prequels? Because when he got to, especially when he got to Attack of the Clones, he realized, digital projection.
Yeah, I'm all for the digital projection.
But do you sacrifice art and storytelling?
No,
at that point?
Absolutely not. I think that it only enhances the storytelling and the art to be able to get more detail.
And that's probably the big concern that I've got. Now, I do trust James Gunn a great deal. Obviously, what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy was incredibly amazing. It was visually stunning to look at. It was a completely different universe than anything we had seen before. I'm just terrified that the filmmakers, James Gunn, cinematographers, whoever, are going to say, "Ooh, with 8K, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this?"
Yeah.
And now you're putting the cart before the horse, so to speak. And I get really nervous when I see that kind of thing. But on the other hand, I love the fact that Marvel is willing to embrace new tech, and I like the idea that they want each film to kind of have its own life force, its own energy, its own entity.
Yeah.
That's a great thing. So I will be looking at this with some sort of cautious optimism. Just have to kind of wait and see on that. In the meantime, I'm just looking forward to Doctor Strange. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Okay. Is that all the news you have?
That's all the news that I've got.
Okay.
You don't need to hear their identification. They're the Two Gay Geeks. They can go about their business. Move along.
And that's the birthday music. And here are a few selected birthdays for January 11th through January 17th. And I apologize for not having very many historical birthdays because my the website that I was using has disappeared. And the other one that I was using has like 3 pages of historical birthdays from the BC time frame all the way up to current, and then you have to wade through that. And
that's too much.
A few too many things to look through for me. So January 11th. Alexander Hamilton, one of the lesser founding fathers, shall we say.
True.
January 12th, Howard Stern and John Lasseter.
Like, that man needs any more toys.
Yes, exactly.
If anybody, if you want to know how many toys this guy has just pull out any of the Pixar movies on Blu-ray, or just look at any of the bonus material where Lasseter is interviewed, and just look at the shelves that are behind him.
Yeah.
I mean, they are cluttered with toys. He's got more toys than Toys R Us. Let's be
every
real.
toy imaginable.
Yeah.
At least for his movies.
Oh, yes.
Then some. January 13th, Gwen Verdon.
I think we need to watch Damn Yankees again just to see her.
I know. What Lola wants, Lola gets. Also, January 13th, Liam Hemsworth. January 14th, Grant Gustin.
Oh, I wouldn't mind being at his birthday party.
Yeah. January 15th, Edward Teller.
I have such admiration for this man, and I almost got to meet him. Almost got to meet him when I used to work at the Livermore National Lab. Oh well. Also on January 15th, Martin Luther King Jr., civil rights activist, and we celebrate his birthday. And actually, I get that holiday off. We don't get President's Day, but we get Martin Luther King Day. I think I get Do I get?
Yeah, I think you get President's
Do I get President's Day? I'm not even
I don't
sure
know.
anymore.
I don't know. Who knows what you get? Anyway, January 16th, John Carpenter.
Okay, so after we watch Damn Yankees, I want to watch Big Trouble in Little China.
There you go. And then Ethel Merman.
I'm leaving that one alone.
On January 16th. Have a few on January 17th. Betty White.
Can we just say what kind of awesome she really is?
She really is.
She's just phenomenal.
And Muhammad Ali on January 17th. Benjamin Franklin. James Earl Jones. Eartha Kitt.
Okay, then we need to see. Oh shoot! The movie just went right out of my head.
The Sandlot.
No, Sandlot with Eartha Kitt.
No. Oh, Eartha Kitt. Oh, I thought you were talking about James Earl Jones.
No, Eartha Kitt.
Oh, Emperor's New Groove.
Emperor's New Groove. Thank you. Shame on me for not remembering.
And also January 17th, Vidal Sassoon.
After which I'm going to get my hair washed.
Yeah, and then Sherry Lewis.
And then I'm going to stick my hand up a puppet's butt.
There you go. Okay, that is it for the birthdays.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Forget about whether Han shot first. He did. Is it true that Han Solo teamed up with a 6-foot green rabbit? Did Darth Vader profess a devotion to the immortal gods of the Sith? And did Leia's unhealthy attraction to her brother grow for years? Ew. Hi, I'm voice actor Michael Corley, and I want to answer these questions and more on the VoxBox Star Wars comic book podcast. Each VoxBox episode covers classic Star Wars comics, starting with the original Marvel series in 1977 all the way to the present day. So tune in, have some fun, and may the Force be with you at VoxBoxPodcast.com.
Go give a listen to our friends over at VoxBox Star Wars Podcast. And now we have epic feedback.
Epic doesn't even begin to cover it. We're really reaching a point where we're going to have to start doing feedback episodes alone. Because you guys out there are amazing.
Awesome.
Totally. So, starting off, going back to a story that we did last week, where we talked about how Space 1999 is to be reimagined and called Space 2099, and how that story is actually 3 years old and then just miraculously all of a sudden started making the rounds again, and people are reacting to it today.
It's amazing.
Somebody responded on our website, and we want to thank you. His name is Ven Burbank, and he simply left this. I love the original series as a kid, but find it painful to watch today because of the implausible science. It's not going to be easy to write a convincing story today that depicts moon traveling to distant parts of the galaxy simply by being propelled by nuclear explosions that didn't totally fracture it. It would take 50 years for the moon to even get out of the solar system, even thousands of years to get to the nearest star. Even the wormhole idea is bogus. Last I heard, there were no portals in our solar system. It's going to take some very clever writing to come up with something that doesn't insult the modern viewer's intelligence. Perhaps some sort of intervention from an advanced civilization to help it along. The stories will have to pass by several scientific advisors before production begins. Then there has to be the chemistry from the original series, with interesting characters true to the original, and fans of the original series should have creative input or they will quickly lose the audience.
Yeah. And you had a response to that because you and Eugene had just, as we published that article, you had just talked about Space 1999 and actually did a podcast on it.
What happened is the day before, you and I had gone over to Eugene's house to do an episode of the other show that I work on, Fusion Patrol, and we did a live commentary on an episode called Matter of Life and Death. And then we also then later did an actual wrap-up discussion, just me and Eugene, on that particular episode. And yes, we talked about some of the flaws, some of the bad science that is in there, but this isn't a series that really is about the bad science. This is a series about the people, how they react, and it's also a very artistic show. So, there has to be a lot of suspension of disbelief for that particular show. Again, we simply have to wait and see how this is going to play out. I mean, we really haven't heard much of anything else. If there is going to be more Space 1999 in the form of a new series.
You know, as we've talked about, if they go into the series with tongue firmly in cheek and don't take themselves seriously, it could work as kind of a campy sci-fi throwback to the 70s.
Oh, you mean Lost in Space?
Yeah, a series like the 60s or 70s, a series like that. I mean, if you go in intentionally trying to do that, but if you go in and take yourself seriously and have to have good science, then I don't think that it succeeds unless you throw in some space alien or advanced civilization or something like that. You know, I mean, and we've talked about that primarily about that horrible. What the hell's that show now? I can't remember. The one that that's unbelievable that we couldn't watch. I couldn't watch after the first episode.
Oh, good heavens.
Oh,
there was a number of them that we couldn't watch past the first episode.
Yeah.
Now you have me curious. I want to know what you're thinking.
Oh, we talked about it too many times already. Oh. I can't remember the name of the damn thing now.
Oh, do you even remember anything about it?
Oh, it's that group of people that are supposed to be super geniuses.
Oh my God, Scorpion?
Yes, there we go.
Yes,
Scorpion. That horrible thing. Anyway, had they not taken themselves seriously at the beginning, it could have been palatable. But
yeah, I can agree with that. Okay, then moving right along, we did a story last week about how Jewel State, who was a huge fan favorite of the TV series Firefly, who then came in and did a season on Stargate Atlantis, has been cast to guest star on DC's Legends of Tomorrow. She's a huge favorite among genre fans. And a good friend of ours, Jared Rose, he just had simply one thing to say. Yay! He was happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And then we also ran a story about how, and we talked about this when we announced this story some time ago, about how Disney is going to be doing a live, yes, this is another one of these animation to live action films on Cruella de Vil. And it's simply going to be called Cruella. And the story that we ran is that Emma Stone, who was in the Amazing Spider-Man films, is currently in early negotiations to play Cruella. And that the movie's going to be an origin story.
Oh, well, that would make it better.
That could make it better. So we're going to, let's hold out. I mean, it might work. If they can find some way to dovetail that into the Glenn Close movies, then I will really give Disney major props for doing it. Although I still want to see Tron 3. Being that what it is, Jared then had another comment where he simply writes, "One of my favorite actors playing my alter ego? Yes, please." My question is, Jared, Cruella is your alter ego? You never struck me as the kind of guy who likes to wear animal furs, let alone puppies. Is there something you need to tell me?
Maybe it's a different alter ego.
Certainly. Oh, what, Emma Stone is his alter ego.
There we go, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway,
Moving
right along.
And then we did another story about how there is a new trailer, if you want to call it. It's more of a teaser for the season 2 of Daredevil.
I can't wait.
Yeah, that series will be dropping on Netflix in March. Yes. We are all very, very excited for it. March 18th, to be precise.
They moved it up. It was supposed to be the end of March, and then they moved it up, I think.
Yeah, right? Actually, it's supposed to be April, I think, because they wanted to kind of tie that sort of in with the new Luke Cage series. But yeah, they've decided to bump it up a little bit. Everybody's clamoring for Daredevil, and we're still waiting on news for Jessica Jones, too. So get off your butts, people. In any case, yes, we posted the article that has the season 2 teaser for Daredevil.
It'll be in the show notes.
That'll be in the show notes. And good friend Scott Linder left the comment saying, "Here's hoping season 2 is just as good, if not better, than the first one." And he said that with fingers crossed.
Yes.
Well,
I'm hoping so too.
I'm hoping so too. I have every reason to believe it will be, because from what little that we've seen, it looks like it's going to be really good, and they're going to be fleshing out the DC, listen to me, the Marvel Universe by introducing Elektra, the Punisher. I think it could be very exciting. I'm very much looking forward to it. So.
Yeah, an interesting little thing I just noticed when we're going to go on a cruise in November, and it's out of New York. And the cruise ship terminal is actually in Hell's Kitchen.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So, could it be
I don't know if we're going to have enough time to kind of look through Hell's Kitchen. I don't know if I want to look through Hell's Kitchen.
See some of the damage.
See some of the damage that is there. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to be cruising Hell's Kitchen at night and see some red clothed vigilante beating the snot out of people.
There you go.
Yeah, that's not my thing.
Anyway,
then we also did a story last week about how Sci-fi, they have an original series called The Expanse, which has been received with huge accolades from both fans and critics, and it has been renewed to a second season. Now, what is very exciting about this little bit of feedback is that it actually caused this actually caused a dialogue on our Facebook page, which I was very happy to see. I mean, it's great to see you guys out there that are just so passionate about talking these things. It just excites me to no end. And it started off from good friend Crazy Joe.
Crazy Joe
Simply wrote, "Does it get better? The first 2 episodes have been kind of dull." And another friend, Tom Outed Guldbranson, came back with, "The next episode picks up speed, some dull moments, but they are informative. A moment they changed from the books for more dramatic effect was a bit of a fail, but overall it gets pretty exciting in the next couple of episodes. And then, I didn't expect this, Scott Purdy had to chime in. And he writes, it kind of depends on what you like. Episode 3 turns up the political heat, riots, etc., and Episode 4 has a major space battle. The battle, however, is more realistic than the average spaceship show, so the pace is different, but there are some shocking moments. What I love about both the books and the show is that it's more grounded in what is possible, so no artificial gravity or faster-than-light space travel. What I love about the first 2 episodes is the establishment of the different cultures outside Earth, mainly the asteroid belt folks, Belters, but since they speak a strange Creole, it's kind of hard to follow at first, so I turned on the subtitles and that helped. Like Game of Thrones, it was easier to follow having read the books already, so I don't know how viewers' experience might be different. I think the non-Holden and crew storylines might take a while to pick up steam. I'm expecting lots of horror before the season is over. Excellent analysis. Thank you, Scott. It was nice to read that. And then lastly, from Sam Sloan. He simply writes, I like this new show from Sci-Fi.
Yay.
So I was really tickled by all of that.
That was great. Yeah, we had lots of feedback from people that we've
worked with.
gathered over the years.
It was a very slice of sci-fi heavy response, and that tickled me to no end. That so many people from Slice are paying attention to what we do and what we write and what we say on the show. I mean, that just thrilled me to no end.
Yeah.
Now, feedback regarding our last episode, 54, and more love from family member Carol Chernich.
Yes.
She simply writes, "Sounds great. You two are so creative. I'll take the flattery anytime we get it. That's why we share what we write, because sometimes we just kind of think that nobody listens to us."
Yeah.
Which is then why I got tickled when fellow classmate from high school, Michelle Miller, says, "I am such a fan." Hey, thank you. It's nice to know that we've got the fans out there. Then Patricia Chica, who she was that was the episode that
was our interview with her.
Yeah, our interview episode 54. We had her. We did a nice little spotlight on her. We talked about the retreat that she's putting together.
That was 53?
Was that 53?
I think.
Well, anyway, she simply writes, "Can't wait to listen to this when I get home." And then she also added, "Good morning. Learn more about my upcoming projects in this podcast interview with the Two Gay Geeks at TG Squared Studios."
Yeah.
And then this one thrilled me to no end. We shared our episode on The Gay Geek, which is a Facebook group. And somebody who follows that group, his name is Fredwin Palacio, and I just want to add that he's an executive supervisor of genetic engineering at Oscorp in New York. Wow. He simply wrote, "I'm going to tag myself so us geeks at work can listen to this together. Thanks."
Yeah, 54 was...
was that the Star Wars episode?
That was Star Wars, yeah.
That was Star Wars episode, yeah. So, wow. Neat. Although, I'm going to say, Fredwin, hey, just follow us.
Yeah.
Just follow us, because we're always going to have something interesting to talk about. And then, on Twitter, Pia Thrasher simply had this little comment. That moment when you realize they're talking about you briefly, and then she put kind of like a little heart in yours, and she was really tickled that we mentioned her. And then she added another comic on Facebook. "Thanks, guys. Ha, 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 ha. Thanks for the shout-out, Ben." Hey, I'm always happy to shout out to our friends. "Yes, I'm a Mads Mikkelsen fan. Can you tell?" No, not really. Why? Why? Tell me. Tell us why you're such a Mads Mikkelsen fan. I want to know. Joking. And then Scott Linder adds, "Happy New Year, guys. Another great podcast, but Ben can't do a Scotty impression while talking about Star Wars." Now, I had to listen. I wasn't sure what you were talking about. And then I listened back to the episode and then realized that I kind of did. There'll be spoilers here. There'll be spoilers here. I didn't realize I was doing a Scotty take, so Yeah, okay, I'll give you that one.
Yeah, it might cause a paradox or something, he says.
Yeah, and that's what he says. It'll cause a paradox or something. Yeah, I'm crossing the streams. Great interview and discussion about the movie, but nobody noticed the little plot hole where Poe talked to Finn at the Resistance rally point about how he got off Jakku. Getting BB-8 to the Resistance was his sole mission, but when he crashed, he basically said, okay, no X-Wing, no droid, off I go. I never really, that plot point never really crossed my mind.
Yeah.
He says, also, totally agree with you guys on the music for Star Wars The Force Awakens. John Williams did such a great job. The movie overall for me was like putting on a nice pair of broken-in shoes.
Yeah.
It felt just right. As far as training
right.
Kylo, someone would have to be a Sith to train Kylo Ren, right?
Possibly, yeah.
Yes, right. Just need to know who it is. I think Snoke is Sith.
Yeah.
That's just my personal take, but
Yeah.
That's what the
It's
future
possible.
movies are all about. We've got
Exactly.
more story to explore.
Exactly.
And then Scott also adds, and let me just say, beside the music, all of the practical effects that were used in the film just made the overall film so much better and believable. I really think J.J. Abrams did a fantastic job doing the fan service with the film. I would like to see more Luke. Keep up the great work until next week. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, and one of the things that kind of came to mind after we did the little discussion with Christy Hartman, the effects made the movie more visceral, which I loved. And not gritty, but visceral. There was just such a great reality to it that I loved. And yes, I want to see more Luke.
Yeah.
And as far as keeping up the good work, we'll do our best.
We'll do our best.
We'll do our best. And Crazy Joe had to comment. Not had to comment. He offered a comment. And Joe, I love it when you comment. I really do. Because
great.
this was a good point, and I appreciate you bringing this up. Andy Serkis is one of the go-to motion capture guys, but let's make sure Doug Jones gets his due. Serkis isn't the only game in town. Point taken. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that.
We forget sometimes.
We do forget sometimes because there's just so many things running through our little heads. And then from Lookie, we just got this simple little greeting. Happy New Year. Hope you find lots of sci-fi you love, plus have a great time podcasting in 2016.
Yay! I think
We love
we
Lookie.
will.
Yes,
and
I'm sure we will.
We're looking forward to Lookie.
And definitely looking forward to more Lookie.
Yes.
And we will have the link to them again in our show notes, of course.
We'd love to talk to the twins sometime.
Oh, yes. I really, really want to talk to the twins. Big time, because they're so entertaining.
Yes.
And then we got big feedback from good friend Arkle. He writes, it was my understanding, and I should point out, this is regarding the Star Trek trailer.
Yes.
The trailer to Star Trek Beyond.
Right.
He writes, it was my understanding that Justin Lin didn't like the trailer either. I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Fact is, directors rarely have any control over the advertising when it comes to their movies. For that to happen, the director either has to be huge, like a Spielberg, or low enough on the radar that the studio doesn't care, like with indie films. Now, you make a good point there. You know, because everybody was really comparing the trailer to the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah.
So everybody was calling it, like Fast and Furious in space. In fact, I think Crazy Joe even referred to it that way. If I didn't, Joe, forgive me, please. Then I would really rest that at the feet of the Paramount marketing division.
Yeah.
For thinking they understood their audience, because clearly they didn't.
Yeah.
At which then, if that is indeed the case, that adds fuel to my belief that Paramount kind of has their knickers in a knot regarding the whole nobody really likes our trailers versus why are this Axonar people making something that people really do like.
Right.
So
Yeah. It's possible.
Arkle, you make a good point.
Yeah.
He then added that he saw an amusing image on Tumblr, and this is going back to Star Wars The Force Awakens. He said it was a fan painting of Rey, of Finn, and of Poe. And the caption on it read, and this is all Rey speaking, I'm Rey. This is my boyfriend, Pin. Oh, my God. I can't believe I just said that. Let me say it again. I'm Rey. This is my boyfriend, Finn, and his boyfriend, Poe. I co-signed this ship. I know what he's saying. He's shipping the whole trio thing. He would love to see a Rey/Finn/Poe OT3.
Okay. Interesting.
Wow.
I
Hey,
think that's pushing it a little bit.
That's going
though.
progressive.
Yeah.
He then added that he says, I'm going outside the box here, but I'm going to say that Rey is Wedge's daughter.
Ooh.
Wow.
Interesting.
Now, that would make Wedge Force sensitive. Now, there is one little bit of credibility to that. Wedge is one of the few people who actually not only survived the Battle of the Death Star, but he was alive to party down at Endor at the end of Jedi.
Yeah, interesting.
So he's a good pilot.
I
gotta wait and see on that.
Yeah, we'll see.
And then but hey, Arco's got much more to say. One point that some critics have made about Finn that is valid and is a bit of a plot problem. Finn's whole reason for leaving the First Order is because he didn't want to kill. Yet as soon as he's in the TIE fighter with Poe, he's firing on his former fellows with no real hesitation. Troopers who, probably like him, were raised from birth. That's a little hinky.
Yeah, but it's... We talked about that the other day, and
okay. Let me make let's give some rationalization on this. Finn did not like the idea of the stormtroopers killing innocents.
Innocent people, yeah.
And yes, there were other stormtroopers that were on the base that were raised just like him, but many of them were. I don't know what to say, guilty by association, but he looked at them. I mean, the fact that the stormtroopers killed, in his mind, makes them the bad guys. And at this point, he's simply trying to escape. He knows that he's trying to escape with a good guy.
Yeah.
So maybe there's an overly rash generalization, and maybe there will be collateral damage as a result of shooting on all these stormtroopers on Starkiller Base. But I'm going to go so far as to say that he saw them at this point. Hey, all you guys, I saw you fire on innocent people, therefore guilty. Yeah. It's harsh, it's rash, but hey, this is just a space opera flick, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But anyway, he has
special comment.
Yeah, I got a special comment on that. But then he has one last issue that he wants to say. Finally, and I'm not the first person to point this out, but Kylo Ren continues a trend in fiction in 2015 that I hope continues, where you have villains who are walking embodiments of white male entitlement.
Yeah.
Wow. Ren in The Force Awakens, Immortan Joe in Mad Max Fury Road, Kilgrave on Jessica Jones. All I can say to that is, more please.
Excuse me.
That's an interesting take. How they're the walking embodiments of white male entitlement. And
then they get taken down a notch.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, you brought up a point that I'm sure is going to be around for quite some time. So, if anybody's got any feedback on that, I would be very, very happy to hear it.
Yeah.
Now, I got one last little feedback item from good friend David Wagner of BTI, and he wrote this. Speaking of force powers, I'm employing my own variation of quote-unquote force willpower to keep from writing you a long list of issues I had with the film. Haha. I shall refrain and spare you that dismal experience, since nothing says paddling around in a fruitless lagoon quite like nitpicking a fairy tale to death, in spite of how therapeutic I may find it. I will, however, pluck at one glaring, obvious piece of low-hanging fruit, since I was really hoping you would have addressed it in your spoiler talk. That retrofitted star-eating super weapon planet was so absurd on so many levels. I was truly stunned. I have enough questions about that particular facet of the film. I could write a tome whose thickness would make George R.R. Martin blush.
Well.
Nevertheless, great podcast as usual. Long live the TGG Empire.
Well, thank you for that comment, David.
Wow.
We appreciate everybody's comment, and everybody has, their own opinion. We have our opinions, and we're really, everybody's entitled. And
Everybody's entitled to an
everybody
opinion.
sees things differently. you
Yeah.
know? And that we're going to talk about that in our second segment after we finish this up. So on our feedback segment, we want to hear from you.
Yes.
Obviously, we had a bunch this time, and we don't mind talking about those pieces of feedback, whether it's on Twitter, on Facebook, on tggeeks.com, or if you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TGGeeks, and that's 469-844-3357. Leave us your feedback. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. We're happy to hear it.
Always.
Always.
Yes, the Force is strong with the Two Gay Geeks webcast.
Oh, have we got something hot here? And this kind of
Yeah.
ties in with David's
Yeah.
comment.
Exactly.
Now, you pointed me on to this article. You pointed me towards this article that was really fascinating.
Yeah, it was well, it was two articles. It was a comment or a comment on an article.
A comment on a review.
Yeah.
It's a very length, and actually, it's more of a review on a review.
Yeah. And what it was is somebody had written on Huffington Post an article of the 40 most egregious plot point holes or something like that.
Yeah, it was 40 unforgivable plot holes in Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Yeah. And then somebody else had taken each one of those 40 plot holes and rebutted them, shall we say. He had intended to do a review himself, but decided that he couldn't,
Well, here's the funny thing. The person who wrote this, he had said that, yes, he was going to write his own review, and there was some kind of insinuation that he was kind of meh on the film. But then he read this review and just, I think it kind of pushed him over to the other side when he realized how utterly absurd so many of these things are. And I'm not going to address all 40 points because it would just take way the heck too long.
Some of it is, and it's, I agreed with a lot of his analysis. And the guy was, and to borrow from David, he was nitpicking a fairy tale to death.
Yeah.
And some of it, if you really get a little over analytical about it, and that's fine. I mean, I've done that. Maybe that's me with Scorpion, but some things don't fit everybody. But I happen to like the film. I thought it was great. I was willing to overlook some of the things.
We saw it more than once.
Some of them, it's kind of like, oh, okay. But you have to realize they're telling a story, and this is the first of 3 episodes we're going to see.
There are several things to consider here. One of the big arguments that we've seen that just has been all over Facebook is the whole Star Wars versus Star Trek meme. I mean, I am sick to death of that one.
Don't even go there.
I am really, really sick to death of that meme because they're two entirely different franchises. They're two entirely different universes, two totally different worlds. Star Trek, for the most part, is, I would call that, I know that Harv Bennett has referred to it as space opera, but in my mind, I call that more of a science fiction series.
Yeah, it's more science fiction.
It's more set in the sci-fi. I mean, sure, it's a human interest series, but set in a very science fiction background.
And it's more sci-fi.
It really leans more towards the sci-fi. And Star Wars is, I call that a space romp.
Yeah, it's more sci-fi fantasy slash fantasy.
It's a lot like, it reminds me a lot of like classic Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And when you go into each of these franchises, you are already introduced to that particular universe and the rules, whatever universe applies in, whatever the rules are in that particular universe, they do not apply to something else. It's like, I cannot go into watching a John Pertwee or a Tom Baker Doctor Who episode and then go into Star Trek and shut my brain off for the 50 plus odd minutes for Star Trek, and then completely ignore any glaring plot holes that might exist, or to take the strong scientific values that maybe Star Trek will then represent, and then go into Doctor Who and then pick the crap out of that.
Yeah,
I mean, that's ridiculous.
I mean, it's all everything is different, and it's all relative.
So there's a lot of nonsense that goes on in this article, and I would say that that the article that rebuts the Huffington Post article, if you're following me on this, while it was posted on Facebook, it was posted publicly, so anybody can see it. You don't have to have a Facebook account to be able to see this.
And we'll have the link.
And we're going to have the link.
Now, I will say, if you are easily offended by language,
don't
read it.
Because it's a bit it gets a bit crass in some of its verbiage.
So,
but there's some really good points that the rebutter, if that's a proper word, is making in this comment. And we have to realize, and I think this is the thing that I said when you brought this article to my attention. I mean, you were kind of going over the various points, and I just looked at you and said, "It's just a movie."
It's just a movie. Exactly.
It's just a movie. I mean, if you don't like it, fine. You don't like it.
Everybody is very passionate about what they like and what they dislike, us included, and that's okay.
I mean, geeks love to examine things under a microscope.
In fact, it was at Costco last night.
As we were shopping.
We were coming around the corner, and there was a group of guys, young guys, maybe in their early 20s, if that, and they were just animated.
I'm guessing they had just seen the movie.
An animated discussion about something, and you turned to me and said, "What was that nerd discussion about?"
Well, obviously it was about Star Wars, because they were having some discussion about how Maz had the lightsaber, and then they were analyzing that little story bit to death. It made me chuckle.
Yeah, but that's why we all kind of get along. We are passionate about what we like and what we dislike, and no harm, no foul for people that dislike what we like, or what we dislike and other people like. I mean, we're pretty passionate about our things.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I remember we David, I know you're listening to this. I'm not trying to embarrass you or anything like that. David Wagner was quite expressive in his dislike for The Flash, the TV series. And you and I, we both love the show a great deal. And I kept telling David, hey, you don't like it? That is totally cool.
Absolutely okay.
There is nothing wrong with that. I mean, I would kind of be bored if everybody liked everything that I liked.
Yeah.
Sometimes what makes it kind of fun is to have a discussion with somebody who doesn't share my viewpoint.
Yeah.
As long as we all have fun with it, then great.
Exactly.
I don't care.
We can all agree to disagree.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
So that then
brings us up to a follow-up item that we have in our...
Yeah. Well, first, before we go to the follow-up, well, actually, no, you're right. I do need to bring this up. Okay, so sit tight, people, because recently there was a discussion that took place on Facebook where I kind of came close to offending David Gerrold. And yes, I'm talking about the David Gerrold, author of The Trouble with Tribbles of Star Trek. And he's got an extensive catalog. He is a Hugo and Nebula Award winner. His work speaks for itself. Anyway, I came close to offending him, and it was not my intent. It was all in response to a conversation that was happening on Facebook about Axanar versus CBS, Paramount, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And it was David Gerrold had written an article, or actually it was a very lengthy post, and he made some very salient and very well thought out points on that topic. And then a lot of people had commented, and I went ahead and put my own comment. I wrote something, and without really thinking it through as to how others might perceive it. Now, in my mind, I'm just some insignificant insect on this big blue marble we call Earth that we live on. So it never...
You're not insignificant.
Well, in my mind, I am.
Yeah.
It never dawned on me that anyone would take anything that I have to say seriously. Well, I got a shock because, Mr. Gerald, he saw it. And he, very appropriately, he questioned me on it. It forced me to re-examine what I wrote, after which I then clarified my comment, and to Mr. Gerald's benefit, he was completely awesome about it, and he even friended me moments later on Facebook, to which I accepted. And I greatly respect that. And this is kind of goes in hand with what we were talking about. I mean, we're very passionate people about what we say, what we think, what we feel. And I want to make the point that at no point should anybody think that we want everybody to agree with our opinion.
Oh, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
It's differing opinions. And, one of the things, Crazy Joe said something about Scorpion, said, did you give it a chance? Did you try to watch it again or any more? And, the thing was, I didn't, but
I did.
You did. And I watched part of that episode that you watched, and I thought, oh, God, it's even worse than what it was before.
And it was.
We are willing to take a second look at something if you, really disagree with something that we like or something that we dislike, let us know, seriously, because we're willing to look at it.
We're willing to take a second look at things. We're willing to change our opinion.
Just not Scorpion, though.
Just not Scorpion. No. But
no, seriously.
One thing that I totally loathe is when somebody throws out an opinion and then discredits anybody who doesn't believe or share that opinion. I am not that guy, and I know that you're not either. We both dislike that enormously. Opinions are very personal.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're a personal reflection of who you are.
Our opinions.
These are our opinions, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't want anybody to think that just because I like something that I need you to like it. No, no, no.
And seriously, as we've said at our feedback, if there's something you like or something you dislike, let us know. I mean, we're open. We are absolutely open.
And just because I dislike something doesn't mean that you're not allowed to like it.
Exactly.
I mean, if there's someone out there who likes Scorpion, and you're enjoying it,
hey, tell us why. Tell us why.
Tell us why. Maybe we're missing something.
Maybe we're missing something. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Eugene and I have said this a dozen times when we were reviewing the series Man from Atlantis at one time, and in my mind, that is one of the worst television shows ever filmed. It is so, oh my God, is it bad?
But there's people that like it.
There were people that actually liked it. I saw comments on IMDb from people who really enjoyed the show and couldn't wait for it to come out on DVD, which it did.
Good for you.
And Eugene and I kept saying, guys, if you like this show, tell us why.
Exactly.
Maybe we're missing something, and I'm saying the same thing here. If there is something out there that we don't like, tell us why. If there's something, that you don't like but we do, that's okay. If you want to share that with us, by all means. Arkle just pointed out some flaw that he had with The Force Awakens. So did David.
Interesting.
And that's okay. It's something to think about.
Yeah, it makes us think. I've thought about those things too, and then it's kind of makes me think about it a little bit. Everybody's opinion is
everybody sees
worth
something
looking at. Yeah.
Everybody sees something differently,
and
that's great.
We are not above being able to change.
No, we're not. So,
anyway,
having said that,
another thank you to David.
Another thank you to David. He submitted a review of Quentin Tarantino's movie The Hateful Eight.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. And I read that. It was actually very, very interesting, and I'm actually kind of more intrigued because I am a huge Tarantino fan. I love the Kill Bill films.
Yep.
They are just ridiculously gratuitous in their violence, but in such a kitschy sort of way. Now you really have me curious. So I thank you, David, for writing what I thought was a very comprehensive review. Yeah. That review is on our show notes, and I will actually recommend that people check that out. Go and read the review, because at the bottom of the review, we not only have a link to Origin Beyond the Impact, which David Wagner is a star of. You can also read his blog, My Little Corner of the World, and the link is all part of that review that he left us. So I would strongly recommend for anybody who's curious about David, read the review, and then you can check those links out and see more of him.
Absolutely. Also, another shout out to Phoenix Comic-Con. They are really beginning to ramp up. They've had a number of things that they've got going on right now, and they're for volunteers. They're doing all kinds of things in preparation for Comic-Con coming up in June.
Yes. In fact, this is the biggest prep I've ever seen them do. I'm very excited now.
But now that they have full-time staff and they can do that. Hotels are available still for booking memberships. If you don't find the hotel that you want, keep checking the website, phoenixcomiccon.com, for updates, because apparently they have different blocks. As they sell out of certain blocks, they release other blocks of rooms that are available. So check out phoenixcomiccon.com. It's going to be a big one this time.
Oh, I'm really excited for it this year.
We will be there, and we will be there all 4 days, and we're going to be at the Hyatt, and hopefully, and have our studio set up in our room at the Hyatt.
Yes, so who knows who we might be able to interview, You never know.
I
wouldn't even be... I would even accept the idea that we might even interview other con-goers.
Yeah.
If if there's something there about, you want to talk about the con, I don't see any reason why we couldn't interview them as well, have a little discussion, and kind of get get other people's takes on what Comic-Con is all about and what they're seeing. So you never know.
Let us know if you're going to Phoenix Comic-Con.
Yeah. And then we also want to give a shout out to the Doctor Who Fancast Guide for taking many of our stories and printing them in their own little internet newsletter, which is the Fancast Guide. And you can see and read that Fancast Guide, which is by going to Twitter. They are Doctor Who Talking Who, and their Twitter address is @TalkingWho. We will have their link on our show notes, as well as the Arkle Times-Post Dispatch News Social Justice Scald. And that is put out there by our good friend Arkle, also known as Brian Weber. And you can read his Post-Dispatch News at Arkle on Twitter. And then lastly, a shout-out to the Facebook group, The Gay Geek, for allowing us to post our episodes on their page. Yes. And their URL is facebook.com/group/The Gay Geek. Special thanks to moderator Jeremiah Reeves.
Thank you, Jeremiah.
And obviously it's getting some kind of traction because of, as you heard in our feedback, Fredman, he's wanting to listen to our episodes now. Yeah. So, yay, Gay Geek.
Thank you. That's our next time sound. I don't know what we have next time.
It could be.
You never know.
I mean, things change at the drop of a hat.
It certainly does. So tune in next week for Who Knows? Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode. We're going to have several links on the page. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com, or on Twitter, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. From TG Squared Studios, I am Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. I bid you peace.
Cheers.